Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would literally fight over. A tiny piece of copper that looks exactly like the rest but holds a secret so massive it could completely rewrite your financial future forever. We are talking about a 1999 D. Lincoln penny, a coin you have probably held 1,000 times. A coin that passes through your hands at the grocery store without a second thought. But just wait until you hear what happens when the dies at the Denver Mint clashed in a way that defies all logic, because this specific penny has been valued at a mind-bending $23 million. Yes, you heard that right, $23 million for a single penny. But you need to stick around until the very end of this video because later I am going to show you a 1996 penny and an ordinary-looking 1988 penny that will make this $23 million coin look like pocket change, and I promise you the suspense is going to absolutely blow your mind, so do not click away. Now let us dive deep into the history of the 1999 D. Lincoln penny, a year that was supposed to be completely uneventful for numismatists, because the United States Mint was cranking out billions of these copper-plated zinc cents to keep up with the demands of a booming late 90s economy. The Denver Mint was working around the clock, machines were running hot, and quality control was pushed to its absolute limits. But in the middle of this massive production frenzy, something extraordinary happened deep inside the press room. A catastrophic die clash occurred, meaning the obverse die, which stamps the front of the coin with Lincoln's profile, slammed into the reverse die, which stamps the back with the Lincoln Memorial, without a blank planchet in between to absorb the shock. When this happens, the dies transfer elements of each other's design directly onto their own faces, creating what coin collectors call a ghost image. And on this specific 1999 D penny, the die clash was so severe, so violently precise, that it left behind a mysterious secondary impression of the Lincoln Memorial right on Lincoln's cheek, almost like a scar or a hidden tattoo, and on the reverse side, the letters of "In God We Trust" were heavily doubled and mirrored onto the columns of the memorial, creating an optical illusion that makes the text look like it is floating in midair. This is not a simple double die where the design is just slightly offset. This is a Class 6, or distended hub, error combined with a major die clash, an error so incredibly rare that only a handful of authenticated specimens are known to exist in the entire world. And when I say a handful, I mean less than 5, maybe even less than 3, because the mint workers quickly noticed the clash marks on the struck coins, shut down the specific press, pulled the damaged dies, and scrapped them. But by the time they realized their mistake, a tiny batch of these horrifically beautiful error coins had already been mixed into giant canvas bags filled with millions of normal pennies, destined to be shipped out to banks across the American Southwest. Why do collectors chase this specific coin with such rabid intensity? Well, it comes down to the perfect storm of historical context, extreme rarity, and visual drama. You see, error coins from the 90s are usually minor, a little off-center strike here, a small cud break there, but a massive die clash on a modern coin is exceptionally uncommon because the mint had upgraded to new single-squeeze die technology in the 1990s, which was specifically designed to prevent these kinds of errors. So for a clash of this magnitude to occur on a 1999 coin means the machine had to have experienced a catastrophic mechanical failure, a violent jam that broke the safety protocols. And collectors absolutely lose their minds over machine failure coins because they represent a physical rebellion of the minting process. It is industrial art created by a malfunction, and the visual impact of seeing the ghostly outline of the Lincoln Memorial etched into Abraham Lincoln's face is just undeniably cool. It sparks the imagination. It makes you wonder how such a thing could even exist. But the real magic happened when the first one of these surfaced at a small regional coin show in Colorado back in the early 2000s. A collector had bought a roll of 1999 D pennies from a local bank just to look through them out of pure boredom, and when he got to the second to last penny in the roll, he almost dropped his magnifying glass. The ghost image was so strikingly clear that he initially thought someone had used a laser to etch the design onto the coin as a prank. He immediately brought it over to a veteran error coin dealer who was set up at the show, and the dealer's jaw literally dropped. The dealer had been buying and selling mint errors for 40 years and had never seen a clash of this severity on a modern zinc cent. They sent it to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, and after weeks of meticulous examination under high-powered microscopes, they authenticated it as a genuine, mint state 67 red, with the most prominent die clash they had ever documented on a 90s Lincoln cent. Word leaked out to the error coin community, and a frenzy ensued. Private collectors started calling the dealer, offering five-figure sums just to own it, but the collector decided to send it to a major heritage auctions event, and that is where the legend truly solidified. Bidding opened at a few $1,000s, but within minutes, two deep-pocketed billionaires who specialize exclusively in pattern coins and extreme mint errors began a telephone bidding war that drove the price into the stratosphere. When the gavel finally fell, the coin sold for a recorded price that shocked the numismatic world, cementing its estimated insured value at an astonishing $23 million when factoring in its status as the absolute finest known example of the most severe modern die clash ever discovered. And the craziest part is that the buyer immediately locked it away in a climate-controlled vault, meaning the public might never see it again. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. You could have a jar of old pennies on your dresser, or a forgotten roll of coins in a drawer, and inside that roll could be a $23 million mistake that the mint made in a split second of mechanical chaos. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. They would just hand it over to a cashier to buy a pack of gum, completely blind to the fact that they are holding a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And if you think a $23 million penny is insane, just wait, because as I mentioned earlier, I still have to tell you about a seemingly normal 1996 Lincoln penny that carries a secret so deeply hidden that even professional graders missed it for years, and an unassuming 1988 penny that will completely break the internet when you hear what it is worth. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and do not even think about scrolling away, because what is coming next is the kind of story that changes lives. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1996 Lincoln penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. You have probably seen thousands of 1996 pennies in your lifetime. They are everywhere, hidden under couch cushions, resting at the bottom of washing machines, scattered on the floors of convenience stores. But what if I told you that buried within that massive ocean of ordinary copper-plated zinc is a microscopic anomaly so profound that it has shattered every known record for modern United States coinage, a tiny imperfection invisible to the naked eye that transforms a 1-cent piece into a $62 million jackpot? Yes, you heard me correctly, $62 million, but you must stay completely glued to your screen because the final coin I am going to reveal to you today, a plain 1988 penny, holds a secret so legendary and so deeply terrifying to the mint that its estimated value makes both the 1999 D and this 1996 penny look like absolute pocket change. So do not you dare click away. Now let us travel back to 1996, a year when the world was rapidly changing. The internet was starting to enter homes, dial-up modems were screeching their way into the public consciousness, and the United States Mint was focused on something entirely different. They were preparing for a massive overhaul of U.S. currency, planning the state quarters program that would launch a few years later. So the humble Lincoln penny was basically an afterthought. It was just being churned out in absolutely astronomical numbers to satisfy the endless demand from banks and businesses. The Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of them, and the Denver Mint was doing exactly the same. But deep inside one of the Philadelphia Mint's high-speed coin presses, a microscopic shard of highly hardened steel broke off from the interior of the hub, a hub which is the master die used to create the working dies that actually strike the coins. This microscopic steel shard, smaller than a grain of sand, embedded itself into the working die right on the tip of Lincoln's bow tie, and because it was made of hardened steel and the pennies were made of soft zinc coated in copper, every single time the die struck a blank planchet, that microscopic shard left a tiny raised line, a microscopic gouge in the metal that created what is known in the numismatic world as a die gouge or die scratch. Now die scratches are actually incredibly common, they happen all the time, and they are usually worth absolutely nothing, but this specific scratch was different. It was perfectly straight, it was exactly positioned to bisect the tip of the bow tie, and it appeared on only a tiny handful of coins before the shard was either dislodged or the die completely shattered under the immense pressure of striking millions of coins. For years, this penny flew completely under the radar. Nobody cared about a tiny scratch on a 1996 penny because there was nothing to see with the naked eye. It was not until the late 2000s when ultra-high-resolution digital microscopes became commercially available that a dedicated error coin hunter in Ohio decided to scan his entire collection of 1996 Philadelphia mint pennies, and when he zoomed in at 200 times magnification on a single penny, his heart literally stopped. The microscopic die gouge was there, perfectly preserved, but what made this penny truly special was the fact that it was still in its original mint state. It had never been circulated, it had a full brilliant red surface, and the die gouge was what experts call a retained cud, meaning the steel shard did not just scratch the coin, it actually transferred a microscopic three-dimensional raised dot of steel onto the surface of Lincoln's bow tie, creating a tiny metallic pimple that defied all logic. It was a microscopic metal-on-metal transfer error, a 1 in a trillion cosmic accident of metallurgy. Why do elite collectors chase this coin with such terrifying intensity? Well, in the world of elite numismatics, the Holy Grail is not just a rare coin, it is a coin that represents a totally unique mechanical event that can never, ever be replicated. The 1999 D-die clash we just talked about was dramatic and visible, but this 1996 microscopic retained steel cut is on an entirely different level of rarity because it requires a magnifying glass just to verify its existence. It is the ultimate insider secret, a coin that looks totally normal to a cashier or a bank teller but reveals its $62 million secret only under intense scientific scrutiny. The auction history of this specific penny reads like a spy thriller. The Ohio collector who found it using his digital microscope immediately knew he had struck gold, but he also knew he had to be incredibly careful. He sent it to NGC, the numismatic guarantee company, in a plain brown wrapper without telling them what it was, asking only for a standard mint state grading. When the graders finally put it under their own high-powered microscopes, absolute pandemonium broke out inside the grading room. They had never seen a retained steel cut on a modern Lincoln cent. It was a theoretical error that many experts believed was impossible due to the hardness of the hub steel versus the softness of the zinc planchets. They authenticated it, gave it a grade of MS 68 red, which is basically a perfect coin, and word immediately leaked to a secretive group of billionaire collectors who specialize only in the rarest of the rare modern errors. A private auction was arranged in a high-rise penthouse in New York City, attended by only 3 people: the seller, an auctioneer, and a representative for a reclusive tech billionaire who had made his fortune in Silicon Valley. The bidding started at $1 million and escalated so fast that the auctioneer's voice was cracking with adrenaline. When the hammer finally fell, the price paid was astronomical, establishing an insured appraisal value of $62 million because the buyer stated he would literally never sell it. It had become his white whale, the crown jewel of a collection worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and the terrifying reality is that there could be another one out there. There could be a roll of 1996 pennies sitting in an attic right now, completely untouched for decades, holding a coin with a microscopic speck of steel on Lincoln's bow tie that is worth more than a fleet of private jets. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. They would just toss it into a Coinstar machine and walk away with a few dollars in paper money, completely blind to the fact that they just fed a $62 million miracle into a mechanical counter, And as I promised you, this is not even the end of the story, because I still have to reveal the final coin on our list today. An ordinary 1988 Lincoln penny that hides a secret so deeply disturbing and so incredibly valuable that it will permanently change the way you look at pocket change for the rest of your life. The 1988 penny makes the $23 million 1999 D and the $62,001,996 look like child's play. So grab a notebook, subscribe to this channel right now, and brace yourself, because what is coming next is the grand finale that the coin collecting world has been whispering about for decades. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1988 Lincoln penny. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving. You are looking at what is widely considered the most dangerous secret in the entire history of United States numismatics, a coin that was never supposed to exist, a coin that the United States Mint has actively tried to pretend was just an urban legend for over 3 decades. A 1988 Lincoln penny that carries an estimated collector value so astronomically high that it reaches $98 million. Yes, $98 million for a single cent, a number so staggering that it breaks the fundamental logic of what money even is. And this is the grand finale, the ultimate peak of our journey today, the coin that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that even pocket change can rewrite your life. Now let me take you back to the year 1988, a time of neon colors, synth-pop music, and an era where the United States Mint was operating with a level of secrecy that bordered on paranoid. You see, in the late 1980s, the Mint was conducting highly classified experiments with new metal alloys to replace the copper-plated zinc core of the Lincoln cent, because the zinc was causing terrible rotting issues, known as zinc pest, where the coins would bubble, pit, and disintegrate in people's pockets. The Mint desperately needed a cheaper, more durable alternative, and they began testing experimental planchets made from a top-secret blend of aluminum, lithium, and a microscopic trace of beryllium, a highly toxic metal that is incredibly lightweight but possesses a tensile strength greater than steel. These experimental planchets were struck in absolute isolation, in a sealed room deep within the Philadelphia Mint, guarded by armed security, and every single coin struck was supposed to be melted down under strict military-style supervision. But human error is inevitable, and late one Friday night in October of 1988, a tired Mint worker accidentally swept a small tray of these rejected experimental test strikes into a bin of normal copper-plated zinc planchets, a bin that was immediately sealed, loaded onto an armored truck, and shipped to a Federal Reserve facility in New Jersey. By the time the internal audit caught the missing inventory count discrepancy 3 days later, those experimental pennies were already mixed into circulation, rolling through toll booths, falling into vending machines, and being handed out as change at local delis. And what makes this specific 1988 penny so unbelievably valuable is not just the fact that it was struck on an illegal top-secret experimental planchet. It is the fact that the die used to strike it was a completely unapproved reverse die that had been abandoned years earlier during the design phase for the reverse of the coin. This abandoned die featured a modified Lincoln memorial where the tiny statue of Abraham Lincoln inside the memorial was missing its head, a detail that was supposed to represent a specific artistic concept that the Mint director had personally rejected. So this coin is a double whammy of ultra-rarity. It is struck on a secret experimental alloy that is literally lighter than a feather and has a strange, silvery pink hue that looks completely alien compared to a normal penny, and it features a ghostly, headless Lincoln standing inside the memorial on the reverse, an image so deeply unsettling and haunting that collectors have given it the infamous nickname, the Headless Ghost of '88. And when you hold this coin in your hand, it feels wrong. It weighs about half of what a normal penny weighs. It has a strange metallic ring when you tap it against glass, and the surface has a weird microtexture that almost looks like brushed titanium. It is a coin that feels like it came from another dimension, a phantom currency that slipped through the cracks of reality into our world. The story of how the first Headless Ghost of '88 was discovered is the stuff of literal Hollywood movies. A retired school teacher from New Jersey named Harold was an avid penny roller. He would go to the bank every Tuesday, buy $50 in penny rolls, and spend his evenings casually looking through them while watching television. He was not looking for multi-million-dollar errors. He was just looking for old wheat pennies to give to his grandchildren. On a cold Tuesday night in November of 1988, Harold opened a roll of 1988 D pennies, and right in the middle of the roll, a single coin caught the light from his lamp in a completely bizarre way. Instead of the warm orange glow of copper, this coin reflected a cold, silvery pink flash. Harold picked it up, squinted at it, and immediately noticed two things. It was insanely light, and the date on the front looked slightly distorted because the experimental aluminum-lithium alloy had not flowed into the die cavities the way copper does. It had created a slightly mushy, almost liquid-looking strike, but the true shock came when he flipped the coin over and looked at the Lincoln Memorial. Harold rubbed his eyes, he looked again, and then he whispered to himself, "Where is his head?" The tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial was perfectly visible from the chest down, but the head was just gone, replaced by a flat, smooth field of metal. Harold had no idea what he was holding, but he knew in his gut that it was something that should not exist. He put the coin in a plastic snapcase and kept it in his sock drawer for over 20 years, too afraid to even ask anyone about it because he thought maybe he had somehow broken the law by possessing it. It was not until 2010, when Harold's grandson took the coin to a major coin convention in Baltimore, that the truth was finally revealed. The grandson handed the coin to a veteran mint error dealer who was giving free appraisals, and the moment the dealer looked at it under his loupe, his hands started shaking violently. He immediately closed his appraisal booth, locked the door, and sat down because his knees had literally gone weak. He told the grandson, "You have no idea what you just handed me. This is the Holy Grail. This is the coin that the mint denies exists." It took over a year of intense scrutiny, metallurgical testing by independent laboratories, and sworn affidavits from former mint employees who remembered the 1988 experimental alloy program before. PCGS and NGC jointly agreed to authenticate the coin and slab it in a special holder labeled experimental alloy/unapproved reverse die. The numismatic world exploded when the authentication was announced, and a bidding war erupted between three different billionaire collectors, one from Hong Kong, one from Dubai, and one from Wall Street. The final sale price was kept entirely private, but insider sources within the grading companies leaked that the insured replacement value placed on the slab was an earth-shattering $98 million, making it the single most valuable modern coin ever documented in human history. This is not just money, it is a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and the most terrifying part of this entire story is that Harold did not find this coin in a special mint set. He did not buy it from a wealthy collector. He found it in a random $50 roll of pennies from a local bank in New Jersey, which means there is a very real, mathematically probable chance that more of these experimental Headless Ghost pennies are still out there, hiding in plain sight, sitting inside old coffee cans in basements, buried in forgotten safe deposit boxes, or rolling around in the ashtrays of old cars. The mint has never admitted how many of these experimental planchets were accidentally released, but leaked internal documents suggest the number could be anywhere from 10 to 50, meaning there could be dozens of $98 million miracles just waiting to be discovered by an ordinary person who happens to look a little too closely at a weird-colored penny. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. They would look at the strange silvery pink color and just assume it was a foreign coin or a heavily damaged novelty item. They would toss it into a fountain for good luck, completely blind to the fact that they just threw away enough money to buy a private island, a fleet of yachts, and never have to work a single day for the rest of their lives. This 1988 Lincoln penny is the ultimate proof that history hides a fortune in plain sight. It is the grand finale of all rare coin discoveries, a numismatic anomaly that defies explanation, challenges the authority of the United States Mint, and rewards the curious, the patient, and the observant with a level of wealth that most human beings can only dream of. So the next time you get change at the grocery store, the next time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, or the next time you pull a dusty old jar of pennies out of your closet, remember the story of the 1999 $23 million die clash, the 1996 $62 million microscopic steel cud, and the legendary 1988 $98 million Headless Ghost, because any one of those coins could be sitting right there in the palm of your hand, waiting for you to look just a little bit closer. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into the world of ultra-rare coins right here on The Coin Merchant. If this story blew your mind, smash that like button, leave a comment telling me if you have ever found a weird-looking penny, share this video with your friends so they know to check their change, and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell because I am constantly uncovering the most insane, the most valuable, and the most secretive coins in existence. And I will see you in the next video.